Welcome to the Intimacy Lab. I'm Michelle Renee, an intimacy guide, surrogate partner, and professional cuddler. We're here to talk about intimacy in a much broader view than what you're probably thinking. Most people think about intimacy as sex. We're going to break that apart here. Welcome to the lab. Welcome back to the Intimacy Lab. Today is a first, and I'll tell you all about what that first is in a second. But we are joined with Grace Heer, who is I'm going to let her intro herself. But my connection to Grace is that we met through Cuddlist.com. We've both been with the organization for quite a few years. And Grace lives just a little north of me. I'm in San Diego. Grace is in Orange County. And Grace took my Disneyland virginity this fall. That was a fun day. I got to play, and my inner child was so freaking happy. I'm so glad, Grace, that you brought me to Disneyland, because I've struggled over the years with feeling happiness in my body. I would have to catch it in like a reflection in the mirror and see myself and go, wow, Michelle, you look really happy right now. And in the space of being on the Incredibles roller coaster and being able to really be embodied in just pure joy was a touch, like a moment of like, wow, Michelle, you've come a long ways. Like there's some growth happening here in like, as far as embodying, like feeling what's happening in my body and not just being a passenger of sorts. So thank you so much for that. Grace, do you want to give us like your official intro? Who are you?
Sure. Who am I? So my name's Grace, and I have been a cuddlist since 2019, I think, January of 19. I am a life coach. I provide platonic nurturing touch to people. I have I work with people individually, in groups, practicing consent boundaries and grief recovery practices. I love working with people in grief and holding them and holding space for them, because we don't, our culture, I could go on for hours about this, our culture doesn't allow for grief. When I was signing my mother into hospice, there was a social worker who was talking to us about it. And she said, we live in a 3-day society. You get 3 days off if you're lucky, 5 maybe, to take care of all the business and deal with a funeral or whatever your tradition is. And then you come back to work and you're expected to be fine.
Yeah.
And you're not. So I love holding space for people, and like almost teaching them how to grieve, teaching them how to, and that sounds, I don't want to sound pompous, but we don't know how to be with our feelings a lot. And grief has big feelings that come with it, sadness, anger, frustration, fear, all the things. So that's one of my passions, is to provide that. So I am a certified event leader and professional cuddler. I'm a master practitioner of neurolinguistic programming. I'm a coactive coach, and I'm a certified end-of-life doula.
And just an overall just delightful human being.
Aw,
like let's
cute.
Drop that on top, and maybe it's our mutual experience in grief. Like I think there's a level of grief a lot of people just haven't had to touch yet.
Yes.
And when you cross paths with a person that has held like really deep grief, like there's a sisterhood in that of sorts.
It's a club that everybody has to join, but nobody wants to.
No.
And so when you join the club, it can feel very isolating because we don't talk about the club. I think first rule of Grief Club is nobody talks about Grief Club.
Yeah.
So when we're given permission to speak about it and to be present with it and to be with people who get it, and despite the fact that everyone's grief is different, there's a kinship.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll probably end up talking about grief more, but we have a job to do today.
Oh yes, let's get to
Right. So let me just set the stage for the listeners. If they're not on my Facebook, which y'all are welcome to come follow me on Facebook. I only have a limited number of friends available, but anybody can follow me over there. So if you want the link, it's at meetmichellerenee.com. You can find me all over the place. But um, I really love the game We're Not Really Strangers. And I've played it I've played it. I haven't played the full game. I've answered questions with a lot of people on the podcast so far. I mean, we're only this is probably going to be episode 8 is my guess. So it's not like we have big history here, but it feels big. I love these cards. I do them with clients sometimes. It's a really interesting, sometimes like I've had one specific client I'm thinking of. He loved an opportunity to talk about bigger things, deeper things, get to know each other better. And it wasn't something that came really naturally for him. And so these cards were like an invitation. He'd say at the beginning of a session, do you want to play some cards? Or he would say, I bought some different cards. Do you want to look at those? Like he had like a dating deck, and we would play those cards instead of the cards that I brought. And it was just a part of our monthly sessions that was really bonding. It really brought us closer together. So We're Not Really Strangers had this like 40% off the entire website deal going, back around Black Friday. A little bit before then is when I got on it, but I went on and bought every card expansion, whatever that I did. I only had the primary one. So I bought so many, and I put this picture on Facebook of all these expansions that I bought. And I said, thinking that I was kind of making a joke, anybody want to come on and record answering cards with me? And all these people that are not professionals, that are colleagues and used to being on podcasts. And I know, Grace, I don't know how many podcasts you've done. I remember hearing you on like the Pro Cuddle Hustle, but I haven't followed like your podcast journey. So you've at least done podcasts, and I see you as a colleague and a pro, and you might want to come on and talk about your work. I've got people that I've just barely crossed paths with in my personal life that are raising their hand and putting themselves on my calendar, because I ended up just creating a calendar link for people to just go and sign up to do this. And I put it in my newsletter too. So technically, if you're listening to this and you haven't had access to this link and you really want to come on and answer questions, hit me up. Shoot me an email, michelle@humanconnectioncoach.com. Let's do this, because I'm all for experiments, and this sounds like a really fun experiment. So Grace is the first one to get on the calendar as far as like order of who's showing up in front of me. This is the first one. So thanks, Grace, for being a sport about this.
Why not?
Why not?
I'm up for new things.
When I first got divorced and eventually came out about the divorce, because we tried to settle the divorce before everybody found out, so that we were really working with the two of us and not everybody's input coming into play.
Yeah.
We held on to this really big life event for way longer than I really could. When I popped my top, I popped my top. It was not pretty. I wouldn't recommend compressing all of this and then not being able to hold it back anymore. So I shared a lot of really personal details about it. And I might have done it differently now. But what I loved about that is that people started to open up to me privately and share, because I had been vulnerable first.
Yeah.
And it kind of fed me in what brought me and ended up bringing me, I think, into the work that I do, is this, like, I see the power of being vulnerable, of being authentic and sharing. And then like the 30 questions to fall in love hit the New York Times back in like 2015. And that was like a study showing that this vulnerable connection, if people answer these 30 questions on a date, they're much more likely to have a long-term relationship with this person, because they bond over what's being shared. Instead of coming in with like this facade, it's like, let's dig a little deeper. And then I took those questions to a group I used to run in Michigan called Sex Geekdom. And we sat down and tried to go through questions. And I was really surprised at how many people were like, oh, no, I'm not answering that. And these are questions like, tell us about where you grew up, right? They're not like, tell us your deepest, darkest, kink fantasy. It wasn't like that. It was like, what was your household like growing up? What was your experience? And it was just too vulnerable for some people. So I love this kind of stuff. I love the people that love this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so Grace and I have decided to look at the cards in not the main deck, but in the healing deck. It's the healing edition. And on the other side it says, make your mind a good place to be.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So
Michelle,
one of the things,
since we're on camera, will you just
yeah.
actually show the deck?
So here's it's just this little deck of cards.
Okay.
So
yeah.
the main deck is much larger. It comes in 3 levels.
Yeah.
Which I love the levels because the levels on the main one are, level 1 is perception. Level 2 is connection. And level 3 is reflection. And
cool.
For those new to this podcast, I use these at my wedding reception. I put cards at every placemat to really build deeper conversation amongst the people. We didn't have seating arrangements. We let everybody pick where they wanted to sit. And I wanted people to get to know each other more so than, wow, isn't this place beautiful? How do you know Michelle? You know what I mean? And so the result was people were a little, I'm going to say they said this with the kindest of hearts. They said, fuck you, I hate these cards. Because a lot of people were in tears. People were processing stuff they didn't expect to come to a wedding and process.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I would have had a therapist on staff that could have been support for people that needed it. I don't know that they really needed it, but it would have been cute, just based on my work, to have somebody lined up as a referral. It would jive. I didn't have anything to do with my wedding planning. My now husband took care of all of it with a wedding planner. I didn't want to have a big wedding. This was the one thing I contributed because I wanted something to be part of the wedding that was really me.
Yeah.
And this is so me.
That's
it really
awesome.
is. And it costs $20 to destroy a deck by placing them all across the table. So
well,
that's my
let me
history.
say, if anyone who was in attendance at the wedding is listening right now and they need a safe space to process the trauma of being at Michelle's wedding, feel free to hit me up.
Right. Yeah. I think so here's a specific example of this. Was one person said to me, I don't know if she said it at the wedding, but I definitely got a follow-up text that was at the wedding, fucking hated these cards. It's very uncomfortable for me. But after we left, her and her boyfriend left, they were getting ready they were planning a vacation in a couple of days after that. They were going to be going on a road trip or some travel together. And they decided they were going to take these kinds of cards with them and actually dive further into it, because it was a great opportunity for them to get to know each other on a deeper level.
Nice.
So it may have been uncomfortable in the moment, but like me, when I put myself out there and I saw the return on investment, they got over the fear and decided to use it. Now, the real fun part is there was a specific question I got called out on. I walked up to, you know how when you hold an event and you have to entertain everybody at the event, you got to make your way around. And so I'm making my way around to tables and I sit down and they go, this card right here. And it was the question was, what is one feeling you miss feeling? Or no, the question was, is there a feeling that you miss feeling? And it opened them up, right? Yeah. So I'm sitting there and my lovely photographer friend, who you might have seen on my Facebook page, Arash, he sits down next to me. He's photographing our reception and our wedding. And I said, Arash, you're this big feelings man. How would you answer this question? And he goes, yes. And I'm like, yes, what? And he goes, it doesn't ask you what the feeling is. It asks you, is there a feeling that you miss feeling?
Right.
right? But everybody at this table just opened up, they could have really questioned that card and really paid attention to it, but they chose to open up about what that feeling was, and that super sweet. Anyways, I could talk about how special that event was, but the specialness of these cards really, I can't let go of them. So back to the healing deck. They come with these little like instruction things, and I want to say this part because I shared it with Grace before we got on to record, but every time I've read these couple of lines, it hits me so heavy. It says, if you're not speaking your truth, you're storing it, and that gets heavy. This pack is an invitation to get it all off of your chest. Use it to self-reflect or play with someone who's ready to dig deep with you. Being honest about how you're really feeling is one of the most healing things you can do for yourself and for the people in your life. And that is exactly what I hold space for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but for me, it's my job and it's my joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's been my own work.
Yes.
When we talk about the grieving process, it took me a long time to get, I want to say, to a place where I feel much more at ease around my grief. But I think it took extra long because I avoided it for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then I got to where I was like, all right, I'm going to I had grown a lot. I'd done a lot of, like, my mother died in 2002, and I joined Cuddlist in 2015. And I can say at that point, I was deep into the grief because grief just wasn't a thing I could deal with in my previous relationship. I didn't have anybody supporting me through it.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was a point where a friend and colleague said, are you ready to let go of this grief? And I said, no, I'm not. Actually, I kind of enjoy it. I had gotten to that point where it was like the way to connect with my mother was to still have the grief. Right. And through some other work that I've done, that's gotten a lot less. It feels a lot lighter, but I had to go through it.
Yes.
Right. You can't bypass it.
No, the only way out is through.
Yep.
I think it's Winston Churchill who said, if you find yourself in hell, walking in hell, keep walking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same with grief. It's the same with any like big emotion or big situation. You know, if you stop, you'll get stuck there. And we don't want that. Nobody wants to be stuck in grief. Keep taking the steps and you'll get through.
Yep. And sometimes I think it makes a difference if you're doing it with a witness.
Absolutely.
Like, I heard it said once, like, you wouldn't do surgery on yourself.
Yeah.
You kind of need a guide or a think of like trip sitting for like psychedelic work, right? You almost need somebody just to hold what you're expelling from yourself, right?
Yes. No, that's absolutely true. There's it can feel very unsafe to do it on your own. And not that it is unsafe, but it can feel like, what if I can't handle the next thing? What if I can't, like, I let my emotions out and I can't handle them?
Yeah.
And so to have a witness there, it can make such a difference knowing that, okay, and depending, to have the right witness, I think, to know that this person will hold me and that everything that happens is safe with me. And we haven't even answered a card
I haven't
yet.
even started this stuff because I'm like, yeah, my inner child and la la la. Like I could just go on and on. Okay, so.
And did we mention that we are recording this at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning?
Oh, right. We forgot to talk about that.
Because I was stupid enough to say, oh, yeah, it'll be great. Anyway.
I love early morning.
Yeah.
Like, I feel my best, but like, I literally just like fixed my hair a little bit, washed my face, and brushed my teeth. Just because I don't like to feel my teeth when they're not brushed. Not that you could have any, like, it wasn't like we're doing like smell-o-vision where you would be like, Michelle, you got coffee breath.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on from that.
Okay. We picked a couple cards to talk about and we didn't pick the order. So do you did you have a preference of which order we went in?
I don't even remember what the questions are. So just
Okay.
jump.
This is the first one I picked when I
Okay.
picked them. So we'll start there. What piece of advice has helped your mental health the most?
I think I just said the answer. Like the only way out is through.
Mm.
Um, and like sort of a companion cliche to that is this too shall pass. It sucks to be right here, right now, but keep going. You'll get through this. Um, feel the feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's the crux of it. Feel the feelings. And the more you're able to actually feel those feelings, um, the more you will get from them, the more you can learn from them, I think, and grow from them.
They have information.
Yes.
Big time, especially
Yeah.
anger.
Our
Oh my
feelings
gosh.
are signals, right? Like, yes, anger. Like, anger for me is a signal that my values are being stepped on.
Mm-hmm.
What,
I have a boundary that needs to be addressed. Right. That's
mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, okay, I got really mad. What was that about?
Yeah.
Is there something that has to change? Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's hard when it says mental health, which one has helped your mental health the most. It's like, I can't, it's like picking children. Right. I'm like, what I think that, learning to address my inner child has been really, really helpful. And it sounds kind of, I don't know, woo wooey or I have some clients that are very like, I always say, have you done any inner child work? And they go, no, like they just dismiss it. And I'm like, no, really, like there's a part of you that's showing up whether you want it to show up or not, because like children, they're going to stomp their feet and whatnot. And for myself, the first time I started to actually address my inner child and say, I'm sorry that you don't feel safe. I haven't done a great job of protecting you in the past,
Mm-hmm.
but know that I've got this. I'm okay. We're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right. Started to shift so much for me
Yeah.
around like codependence
Yeah.
and just going from being a person that was preparing to be rescued, like I didn't ever have a plan to save myself in life, but that I was always waiting for to be rescued out of my situation,
Mm-hmm.
to like just building this toolbox that I think Cuddlist all the time for it. I have a whole episode where I talk about how much my life changed just getting involved in that work, kind of accidentally getting involved in that work. And I'm a different person. And so much of it is I have a much better relationship with my inner child.
Yeah. And for me, like when you learn about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, we talk about parts a lot. We all have parts, but like, oh, part of me wants to go for a run, but part of me just wants to sit on the couch and watch a movie. So like that's that literally there are those parts in our psyche, in our unconscious. And so like addressing them, making friends with those parts is so like, and like we are not our parts. Like I don't have to give in to either one of those.
Yeah.
Me, like the conscious Grace, can say, I see you. And like, I see you, or, one of the things that I'm doing right now is talking to a particular part. I see you hurting and I know you need to go ahead. I'll wait. Now, what can we do about it?
Yeah. Or I see that I see a part of me that's trying to protect me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm getting really closed off and wanting to go hide.
Yeah.
Right. Is that really what you want? Do you really want connection, but it's never been safe?
Right.
Right. I know I was one of those kids that my parents sent me to my room. It was pretty common. It was common parenting technique, right?
Yeah.
We were not in the space of like conscious parenting and really working on attachment and things. And so my go-to is like, I just want to go hide under the covers in my bed by myself. And
Yeah.
years ago, my partner and I made an agreement that we wouldn't do that. Like I wouldn't do that, that I would let him, even if I don't want to talk to him, just let him be with me so I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And it's freaking so hard when I'm really upset to let him do that, right? Like it's hard, but again, it's all the parts,
Yeah.
our whole system.
So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
The advice is to go through it.
Yeah.
Don't avoid it. You got to go
Yeah.
through the feelings. I think you mentioned another one. Do you remember what it was? Or maybe it
Like,
was an extension of that.
yeah, I think it was just an extension of that. And be with your parts, be with
Yeah.
yourself, and find a safe container, whether that's your own container, like whether that's like when I'm sitting in this chair, that means I'm going through this, or whether it's a safe space with another human,
Yeah.
a therapist, or whatever.
Yeah. Somebody who can hold space.
Yeah.
There's a training to this, right? Like, I think that's,
I agree.
I remember many years ago, I don't, everything's like pre-COVID, post-COVID in my head, like
I get it.
sometime pre-COVID. I remember I took a deep listening class with Cassandra Brown, who's one of our colleagues at Cuddlist. And I thought I was a really good listener. I was not a good listener, right? And I was doing cuddling work at the time, and I was making the the worst thing I think you can do in a session is try to give people advice. But I was totally doing it. And I look back now and I'm like, no wonder my repeat rate was so low, because now that I know what it feels like, now that like I've looked at it through like a magnifying glass and really inspected it, I don't like it when people give me unsolicited advice. It makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
And so I can look back now and go, oh man, did I blow it for a while there? Like,
Yeah.
ugh. Yeah. So we got sidetracked. It's my life. Yeah.
Squirrel.
I know. Totally. I don't have a diagnosis of like ADHD or anything like that. But the more examples I see of what it looks like, especially in people born into the female body, and the idea that we have a million tabs open in our brain as one of those signifying things, that is me. My Chrome literally has a million tabs open in it right now in front of me on my computer, but my brain is also the same way. Okay. Second question.
Okay.
What do you need right now more than anything?
So I'm trying to decide if the right now, because earlier when you asked me that, I said a nap and a cuddle. And I'm trying to those things still sound really good. I need to continue acting like I love myself. I know that I love myself, and like way better than I used to. But I think I need to continue acting like it and acting toward me as I would toward another human being that I love deeply.
Self-compassion.
Yeah. Yeah. Like even deeper than that, maybe. I don't know what's deeper than self-compassion, but like
Well, it sounds like you're saying like the actions.
Yes.
Like action verbs, right? Like
yeah.
the things you do to love yourself, to show yourself that you love yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I always like, let me tell you a story. My answer to that, and then it'll probably all tie together. I ask myself this question quite regularly. What do you need right now? It was an exercise. I think, again, Cassandra Brown, I think, brought it into, there was once upon a time, there was something called the Advanced Cuddlist Training. I think it only ran a couple of times, but it was a deeper dive. And Cassandra was co-facilitating it with Madeline Guinazzo. And I remember she presented this exercise, and I don't know if it was her exercise or if that just was their trade-off, right, when they were co-facilitating. But I have her in my head saying, what do you want right now? And one of the exercises was I had to go through like a day and every 30 minutes ask myself, what do I want right now? And do the thing. And I had a major breakthrough moment with this question around that time. I went and did MDMA for the first time. So, shh, Michelle likes drugs sometimes. And I was at a party, and I took MDMA, and I proceeded to ask myself for the night, what do you need right now? What do you want right now? And I took care of myself so well. And that was my big integration from that experience was I can take care of myself. I felt so grounded in myself.
Oh,
My
sure.
self-worth changed that day. It was
Yeah.
amazing. And I wish I could make sure it would happen for everyone that did it and I could just prescribe it, but I can't.
Yeah.
So I do this often. So right now, I think what I need is I need breakfast because I haven't eaten yet today.
Yeah.
And I think I need time at the beach.
Oh, nice.
I think I might take like my second cup of coffee and drive to La Jolla and
Yeah.
just walk my favorite section of beach. I don't have anything else to do today, Grace. Like
Nice.
this was the only thing on my calendar that has to be done.
Yeah.
And like you, I think I need to give myself a little bit of me time.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
So like I'm now like I'm shifting the focus of that like from a broader what do I need to like
Mm-hmm.
what do I need in this meat suit right now?
Mm-hmm.
I need to adjust because
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, I'm gonna put my foot up. I injured my foot like 3 weeks ago and I dropped a big heavy thing on my toe. And it's still cranky. It wasn't broken, but it's still cranky. So I'm putting my foot up.
This came up in a interview. I think it was like August 2022. Brian
Mhm.
Gibney and I went on a podcast called Guys We Fucked. It's a couple comedians. I used to listen to it back in the day, like when I was first single, and I listened to a variety of podcasts, but usually they're sex and relationship focused, and
Mhm.
they're funny, but like it was always entertaining podcast to listen to it, and we got invited to be on the podcast, so it was like one of these woohoo moments. I was like starstruck in a way, and they asked Brian the question like, how do people figure out what they want in life? And he had the most brilliant answer, and I've held on to it. He said, well, you got to start small. You got to figure out what you want right now. What do you need right now? If you're not willing to meet your own needs in the smallest of ways,
Yeah.
you can't answer the bigger question. So if you scan your body right now and you're like, I kind of need to pee,
Hmm.
take yourself to the bathroom. But how many of us ignore that and push it away for a little while longer?
Yeah. Like,
We're
oh,
not
wait,
doing a
I
great
can.
job of,
Yeah.
yeah, taking care of our own needs.
Yeah. 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 True. Awesome.
Yeah. That one sticks with me. I like that. That one is like, this is why we do these little things of what do you need right now? So I pass that exercise on to clients when it
Awesome.
comes up as appropriate of like, try this little thing.
Yeah.
This little thing that might change your life in a lot of ways. Cause I ask myself that question. It's like it's a habit for me now that
Hmm.
multiple times a day I'll say, what do you need right now? I do it when I get in the car.
Oh,
So if I'm going to drive, there's a couple things I might do.
okay.
I could sit in silence.
Yeah.
I could play music. I could listen to an audiobook. I could listen to a podcast. Those are my general options, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, which one do I want to do? Okay. Now in that subcategory, what do I want? What kind of music do I want to listen to? What genre, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I make these little like kind of like pulling it apart into the littlest pieces to
Yes.
make decisions. And I practice that cuddle party rule of you're encouraged to change your mind.
Yeah.
So if I turn on a certain kind of music and I go, nope, this isn't what I wanted. My antenna, right? I'm like, I got one of those water sticks, right? That I'm just like letting it guide me. Does this
I
feel
love
like
it.
it? And
Yeah.
sometimes it settles when I get the right
Mhm.
answer,
Mhm.
right? And so I just keep
Mhm.
looking until I get that, no, this is what I wanted.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
And so I love that you are, because not everybody is even self-aware enough to know that they have the divining stick, and that
No.
they can choose, and that they're even like, not just their brain, but their body will tell them, yes, this is what you want.
And this can be honed, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a lot of what we do in cuddling
Yeah.
is people come in and we go, how do you want to connect? And they go, I don't know. And then we start to help them figure that answer out.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I came out of that my first marriage.
Mhm.
Um, there's a lot of gaslighting in that relationship. I
Hmm.
was told I had a bad memory, right? I was told
Oh,
these things about myself. And then I came out of it and I was like, wait, that's not true.
yeah.
Right. And I had to rebuild my gut instinct, that
Awesome.
gut feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you can do it too. Like
Mhm.
it's like having a space to practice making decisions,
Yeah.
little decisions.
Mhm.
How do I want to connect with you today? And it's not about pre-planning and having a choreographed idea coming in, because that's not just like you decided to check in and say, what do I actually want right now? Not what I wanted 20 minutes ago.
Right. Right.
Right? I don't want people to come in with like, oh, I know I'm going to want this and this.
Mhm.
It's nice to have some ideas of what might be options, because you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
right? Maybe you've never looked at cuddling. What does cuddling look like? Can you find some examples? How does that sound to me? But in the moment, I want to know what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love our work. There's nothing it doesn't touch on. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to do one more card? We've recorded about 37 minutes.
Okay. Let's do one more. Why
We
not?
could squeeze one more in. I'm just going to randomly draw one.
Okay.
I don't like the red cards.
Oh,
Okay, here's a
okay.
white
Red
card.
card.
A lot of times they're wild cards, or they're just reminder. In this deck, it's like a reminder, like example. This reminder
Oh.
says, if you're trying not to think about it, it's probably time to heal it.
Ooh.
That's a good one, right? I could
Yep.
just do probably social media post on these all day long if I wanted to. Okay. The random card says,
Okay.
how have you neglected your mental health recently? What's one small way you can make it up to yourself? Not a big card.
You just killed me. My brain just short circuited.
You can also take care of yourself and say, Michelle, I just don't want to do this card. We can stop now.
So here's like the first thing that came to my mind was rest. I have not been resting enough. Um, and I mean sleep, but I also mean just like restful time to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Do you have a way of knowing when that's happening? Like, have you figured out what your signals are? Like,
It's so unlike you, I do have a formal diagnosis of ADHD, which I just got like a year ago. And I'm in the midst of trying a new medication. So I don't quite trust that the ways that I had are still the ways,
sure,
if that makes sense.
total sense.
So I think that's part of what I'm exploring too, as I'm paying attention to the medication, or maybe I should say what I need to be exploring, or it would behoove me. Um, would is like, how do I know when I'm not? Um, but like right now, I can know by the external signs of like looking at my calendar for
Yeah,
this week.
I know. And I'm part
There's
of your
just
busyness.
no space. There's
Yeah.
no white space, and so I don't. Although today, thankfully, I have white space from when we're done.
Mhm.
until 2:30. And I'm going to enjoy that white space and have some rest time, but at the same time, like, I have things to do like laundry, but that can, like, I don't know, for me, sometimes like household chore kinds of things are also part of the white space. Time to putter in my space.
Time to get your life back to like a baseline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that my answer was going to be exactly the same,
Mm.
which is funny. um,
Yeah.
for me, I asked if you have like a note, like, when it's happening. For me, the sign, the tell is, so I'm a morning person. I don't use an alarm. I wake up at an ungodly hour of usually like around 5 a.m. And I've been working on trying to reset my sleep pattern, but it hasn't been working. But I get out of bed because I'm ready to get out of bed. I don't force myself out of bed. If I'm feeling tired, I stay in bed. And
Mm.
sometimes I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, and I'm like, "You're
Mm.
still tired, Michelle. You're not getting out of bed. I'm not
Yeah.
going to let that happen."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I get up when I'm ready, and what I my tell is when I've been up for a little bit and I find myself feeling tired. I need I need some nothingness time. Like, again, just I need to have some, like, I call it conscious dissociation, where I like I say, this is an Adam Pullman. I don't Did you ever know Adam Pullman? He's here in
Um,
San Diego.
yeah, I know. Yes, I'm
Okay.
familiar with him. I don't know that he would know me from. Oh, he
Yeah.
would know me from Adam.
Yeah. For the people at home, Adam Pullman runs cuddle parties here in San Diego. He used to be a cuddlist. I used to interact with him a lot more than I do currently. I think last time I saw him was I went to dinner with him like back in January. So he's in my peripheral, but he's not somebody I see all the time. He used to say this thing, and I repeat it so often. He says, "I need to get bored so that I like so that I can like get excited about a project."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can get bored in little micro doses. But sometimes
Mhm.
I have to get real bored, and, like, Thanksgiving weekend was a good real bored for me because we went on a road trip and I just refused to do any work. And when I say work, I mean, I didn't even play an audiobook,
Wow.
which for me, audiobooks is a lot of like, I don't read fiction. It's like all self-help, relationship, therapy,
Mm, mm.
that realm.
Yeah.
And that is work. Like, even though it's for me personally, because I do gain myself, like, ultimately my hobby, I'm working on myself, is turned into a job. Um, I started to turn on the book that I'm currently reading and I went, actually, no, again, what do I want right now?
Yes.
This isn't it. I need to get away from work,
Mhm, mhm.
working on myself, or work as in working with other people.
Yes.
So that's what I haven't had a lot of time for, because like you, Cuddlist is kind of been taking up a lot of time, right?
Yes.
I know you are working on training, and you and your team is working on how to get a lot of these things kind of easier and more automated and
Yeah.
whatnot. I'm working with this deadline for old training certifications and getting everybody through before we lose our platform where our initial training was. Like, there's this big transition that's happening with Cuddlist, and you're certainly, I'm sure you're feeling that as part of this lack of white space. I'm feeling it too because it's more than I'm normally doing,
Yeah.
and but I know there's an end sight, right? There's an end in sight, so I'm pushing myself a little past that place of, wow, Michelle, I'm noticing that you're tired when you're not usually tired. That means you need to take a break,
Mhm.
because I know that Sunday's the last day. Sunday's the last day,
Like
so
tomorrow?
tomorrow's the last day for me to do certifications under
Okay.
the old system. And so I'm like, it's okay. I know
Yeah.
where the end is. Um, and then I have a week of cramming for my kids coming into town for a holiday break, and then
Right.
travel to Michigan. And I still have a lot of things going, but I know where the end is. And like
Yeah.
today, where I have that white space, I'm going to do as much to like capture that
Mhm.
the thing that I love, going to the beach, right? I'm going to do the thing I love the
Yeah.
most. Sometimes when I need a quick pick me up, Golden Girls.
Yes.
Laughing makes my system reset.
It sure does.
And I know that's my thing, right? It's like I tell clients a lot, we're here to build your owner's manual, right? What do you need? How does your system work, right? For yourself and for other people that you're in relationship with. I think we're really fortunate that working together in Cuddlist, there's a culture of please take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I sent Keely Shoup, our CEO, a Marco Polo the other day where I was really frustrated with Podia. I think you saw my email that probably went out around that same time. And when I get really frustrated, I cry. and I found myself about to just break down in tears on Marco Polo with her. And I went, I need to take a break. I'm going to take a break right now. And I stopped the recording and I walked away from my computer, and she sent me the most lovely message later that was like, first of all, thank you for taking a break.
Good.
Right? I didn't smash any computers. I didn't. And I took the opportunity to like really journal about where that comes from. This feeling of overwhelm when I don't know the answer to something. And it's definitely tied into my childhood and how kind of the culture of my family and my father and his temper and safety and all these things that came up for me. So like, am I ever not working on myself?
Well, I think that makes us, kind of healthy.
Yeah.
But
no, sure.
Like I recognize that sense of overwhelm when I don't have the answer. But for me, it was third child, looking up to parents and older siblings and always wanting to be like, with them, and they have the answers. So that means I have to have the answers too. So for me, it's more of a self expectation.
Sure.
But yeah, it's good to know that.
Yeah, I was the oldest. And my father had he wasn't physically abusive. It was definitely emotional abuse, and he had quite the temper. And so my job as the oldest was to keep everybody good, right? Yeah. So that it kept the level of engagement in our household like lessened.
Yeah.
Right. So that was my responsibility, was to make sure my sisters were in line. And also whenever he couldn't find something, it was always our fault. Right. And he would scream and yell at us, why can't I find this thing? And then of course he would find it. It would be clear that it was his problem. Right. It was something he did, but there was never an apology. There was never any, like, as a kid, you don't understand that was his emotional immaturity. Right. So it's nice to kind of revisit those things as an adult and reprocess them from our wise adult mind, rather than our adaptive child, as Terry Real says in his relational life therapy. I don't know if anybody wants a book to read, but his book Us is a really great read. I'll throw that in here. Yeah. So I need to go take my inner child to the beach.
Awesome.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know if I'll take my dog. I think that feels like more work than enjoyment. So I think I'll leave him home. But
a bucket and a shovel.
No, I'm kicking coffee. That'll be what I'll be carrying. I'm just gonna carry my little, insulated cup and and maybe go watch some dolphins or something.
Nice. So. Good.
Grace, thanks for joining me today.
Super fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this went well. I don't know how people at home feel. So like, I think there's probably people out there that are a great fit for whatever I'm offering. And then there's other people that are going to be like, Michelle, like, just shut up, stop talking. And it's okay. There's other podcasts for you.
Because they're not your audience, right?
They're not my audience. Yeah. Where can people find you?
Oh, so you can find me on, I'm more active on Facebook than Instagram. It's Grace Heer Coaching and Cuddling. And my website is gracefulcuddles.com. And you can also follow me on Eventbrite if you wanted to attend my group, my Graceful Cuddle workshops in Orange County, California.
I'll put it all in the show notes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, it was lovely to break this seal with you. I don't know, like all the virginities.
Yeah. It was a good time. It's always lovely to connect with you, and hopefully people get something out of it.
Yeah.
And if not, like if you didn't get something out of this episode, you might get something out of another episode, because I won't be on it.
You know what matters? I got something out of the episode, and that's why I do this podcast.
It's
because I like doing it. So
awesome.
It was a pleasure, Grace.
Yeah.
I look forward to the next time we get to hang out together.
Likewise.
All right. We'll see y'all, I guess, on the next episode. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to comment, pose a question, or learn more about the guests often featured on the show, visit us at intimacylabpodcast.com. Please also take a moment to review us on your favorite podcast app. It's one of the best ways to show your support. As for me, you can find out more about my work at meetmichellerenee.com, as well as on most social medias at meetmichellerenee. Let's connect again soon.